Welcome in on what is it? Wednesday. It's Wednesday. Welcome in on a Wednesday, February 23rd, 3304 Daily. Dan Steinbach, Ryan Wilkes, our producer's chair. We are joined by Colby Bergstrom and Brian Kearney. Today, all right, today is not the biggest in terms of news about sports. We've got some stuff that we can talk about certainly later on in the show. We've got Tech men's basketball. They're on the road at Georgia Tech tonight, and just another must-win game after the corner they've backed themselves into. We would be talking a little bit about Tech baseball had they, finished their game yesterday, but weather was terrible. And today is not any great shakes either. It's getting sunnier, but when I was out on campus today, muggy and just disgusting. Not the best weather today. So I wanted to start off with something a little bit more lighthearted, something a little bit less serious, it's not sports talk, but maybe some people can just relate to this. I don't know. We're trying to expand our boundaries here. So I am a fan of the show Stranger Things on Netflix. And this is a show that's been out for years now. It's really popular. If you don't know what it is, you probably just don't pay attention to TV at all. But it's coming out with its fourth season, finally. I had to look back on it. It's ridiculous to me that it's almost been 3 years. It's crazy to me to think about how 2019 has been almost 3 years ago. But, that's COVID for you. So yeah, it's been 3 years since their last season comes out, and they announced that they are going to be releasing the season in two parts. One part on one day in May, and the second part on some day in July. And I don't know. I was going back through the binge, and I'm thoroughly enjoying the show. I haven't watched it in a while. I've watched it once all the way through. But this just comes up with a conversation to me that, I think that a lot of people have been having, especially in the past year or so of releases. And it's been about the debate between the somewhat older school at this point. Because let's talk about when Netflix and streaming got huge. This is probably like 7-8 years ago at this point. We're talking like 2013, even a little bit before. And then you're talking about now, the debate between the traditional drop the entire season on one day and let people binge watch it as fast as they want, or do what a lot more shows are doing now. This is something that network television has always done, but you're seeing some streaming services do it now, most notably like Disney Plus with their shows, and HBO Max has been doing a lot of shows this way, where they're doing the more traditional, network television, new episode every week. And I want to get your guys' thoughts on this, because Stranger Things, when it first came out, it was huge, but I feel like, obviously, the time between seasons has made it a little bit forgotten. But I think that Netflix is really selling themselves short on this one, because you see on Twitter every week, let me throw out an example. Euphoria is probably the biggest show on TV right now. I don't watch it, but it is huge. And it's on HBO every week. And every episode has an audience that tunes in and gets it to the top of trending, and it's all they talk about for the next week, and there are memes, and there's everything, and its popularity is extremely high. And honestly, I think we can even tie it to Netflix now. Ozark is a very popular show on Netflix, and I think they just dropped a new season, but you wouldn't know that because no one talks about it, because they dropped the entire season in one day. So I really think that this weekly release schedule is the better way to go about it, because it allows people to experience stuff at the exact same time. It allows them a window of opportunity to catch up, where you're only watching one episode. If you miss the day of the episode, you can catch up you have a week to catch up and, not miss out and not fall behind, as opposed to if you don't watch the entire season within like 3 days, you're already too late. So I want to get your guys' thoughts on this, and we can tie it back to sports even a little bit too, because during, mostly COVID, one of the larger things in sports was obviously The Last Dance, that documentary. And that was a weekly release. And I remember, we didn't really have much to do, but when that was out, we were paying attention each week. We were getting it trending each week. We were talking about it each week. We were making memes about it. We were getting it trending. So I really don't understand why Netflix has this idea that a show that is as popular as Stranger Things is for them. Like, Stranger Things has been their cash cow for a while, honestly. Stranger Things has been like the biggest show on that streaming service. And for some reason, they're thinking that dropping two halves of a season, and it's not like they're doing it 1 week and then the next week. They're doing it like 4 or 5 episodes, or like 4 or 5 episodes on one day, and then they're waiting 2 months, and then they're dropping another 4 or 5 episodes. That is horrible for getting people to talk about it. Uh, I just don't know why they're making that decision when you're seeing it be so successful somewhere else. Want to get your guys' thoughts on this? So let's start off with Ryan here.
Yeah, I agree. It's kind of a weird thing in the moment because of course you want to see, you just after you watch an episode, it obviously ends on a cliffhanger as they always do, making you come back next week and you're just like, man, I really want to watch that next episode. And that happened with The Last Dance multiple times because I think The Last Dance revealed way more about Michael Jordan's life than we even expected. We knew it was going to be stuff that nobody knew about, but some of the stuff that was in that show was like what like this actually happened, and like just learning more about the life of Michael Jordan was awesome, and having to wait a whole week for that next episode was kind of tough to do. And recently a show I watched called Peacemaker on HBO Max, awesome show, loved it. Every week they came out with a new episode, and of course after every episode I'd want to see the next one. And um it's a brilliant strategy that I think some streaming services have just picked up on, and some different you know production studios have picked up on, because you put it out week by week, you keep the conversation going and you keep it relevant. For a show that comes out one season at a time, like Ozark, yeah, the conversation was really prevalent for about 2 weeks. And now, yeah, there's chatter about it because I personally haven't finished it yet. So I will still talk about it, and but the majority of people have probably finished that show already, so the conversation fizzles out. But with a show like Euphoria, every what is it, Sunday, that conversation, comes full circle again. And it's just like every week there's a new conversation to be had about the new episode. And you limit spoilers because most diehard fans are watching at the same time. So there's not much to spoil because everybody's watching it. And by the time everybody's done watching it, you can talk about it all you want. So I am fully for the episode by episode, week by week thing, because I think it creates tremendous fan engagement, and I think it's the right decision. And I wish they would do that with the upcoming. I don't know if they are, if they, what their plan is with that. They might do like a 3 episode thing and then drop it by every week, which is another good strategy because you kind of stimulate the conversation and then you keep it going week by week. I hope they do that with a new Showtime Lakers series on HBO Max. I'm not sure if y'all have seen much about that, but that looks incredible. And I hope they do something similar that they have been doing with multiple shows on that streaming platform.
No, you're absolutely right, and I like that you brought up the Showtime Lakers show because that looks exciting. John C. Riley as Jerry Buss looks incredible. The guy they got to play Magic Johnson, it's stupid how similar they look. I don't know if there's some visual effects going in there, if it's just makeup, if he just looks like that. No, it's insane how they made that look. The guy playing Larry Bird doesn't really look like him though. I found that funny. But no, and while you were talking, I brought up an article from Vulture. This is from October 2021, and they're comparing this Only Murders in the Building show from Hulu, and probably Netflix's biggest project ever. Colburn apparently is a fan. I personally have never heard of it. And Netflix is probably their largest show ever. Squid Game. Squid Game was everywhere, and it's interesting to compare the dynamics between something like Stranger Things, which was big as soon as it got launched. Squid Game took a little bit, but its momentum, even though it was dropped all at once, just kept going and going. So there's that. They're calling it. I mean, we all know what FOMO is, the fear of missing out. There's that dynamic that Squid Game had for some reason that made it a phenomenon that allowed it to have buzz after its initial release, compared to something like, I honestly think that at this point, and again, maybe it's because it's already a show that's been kind of leaving the psyche of the public. I mean, again, it's been almost 3 years since we've last gotten new Stranger Things content, and them dropping it all at once when it's already forgotten, it might not allow that build up of anticipation. Whereas Squid Game is at least something new. So you're making that comparison. I don't know. I think I do prefer the weekly. I've never been a huge binger, but when I used to a little bit more, but I really like the more discussion based community experience stuff that we get with these weekly releases of all these shows, whether it be the Marvel stuff I watch, uh, Star Wars has been doing it. They were talking about Hulu. Like I'm getting into. I went back and I watched my girlfriend and I. She introduced me to How I Met Your Mother, which I did not watch when it was on network television. Love the show. Brian is also a big fan as well, so appreciate that. But I'm trying to get into the spinoff that's on right now. How I Met Your Father. They are completely redoing the show. Basically, it's just a spinoff of it, and they're doing that a week at a time. And I feel like if they dropped that all at once, I wouldn't be able to appreciate it as much because there's nothing to look forward to after I'm done watching it. So I don't know. I just personally prefer that experience. I mean, we're making good time on this. If you guys have any thoughts on this yourself, text in 540-216-2231 or hit us up in the YouTube live chat. Brian, what are your thoughts on the whole are you a guy that binges? And even if you are, do you prefer the weekly release thing?
Yeah, so I'm gonna like half disagree with you guys, but half agree. I agree for like the streaming services as like a business strategy. It's brilliant. It makes perfect sense because like you guys have been talking about with Euphoria and all that, it just drags out this conversation and just makes the show just even bigger. But as a fan of shows, I don't love it because the reason I watch, like, I mean, not the only reason I watch the streaming services, but it's nice to be able to just like run through the season. I'm not a huge binger, but like those cliffhangers always make me want to just keep watching. So I like to be able to just kind of keep running through the shows. So I don't love it. It's not something that I hate, because it's still on the streaming service. After it gets released, you can still go back and watch all of them together. So it doesn't really matter. But on the whole, as like a fan, I don't love it, but I think for streaming services and their business and just keeping these shows more and more popular, I think it's brilliant.
All right, so you are, and look, there are a lot of people that think like you. You want to just see the next episode. You want to, be able to just sit there. So you enjoy a binge. Like you can just sit there. You can take a day out of your schedule. If it releases on a Friday, hey, I'm excited for this show. I'm gonna take the Saturday. It's released Friday night. I'm gonna take pretty much whenever I'm out of school, whenever I'm out of work. I'm gonna take Friday night, go to sleep. All of Saturday is finishing that season. And look, I've been doing that too. I'm a guy that watches YouTube videos at 2 times speed. So I really appreciate the fact that Netflix on your phone and on your computer, you can dial it up to 1.5 times speed. And that's how I've been watching my Stranger Things reboot, or not reboot, rewatch. Uh, I've been doing that. And I've flown through the first 2 seasons. I'm like 3 episodes left in season 3. So I've done all that in like the past 2.5 days. So now obviously I didn't have anything to do yesterday, so that's what I was doing. But I don't know. I really do prefer the conversation that you can get. And honestly, I think it depends on the show. I think with a show like Stranger Things, where there is an allure of mystery, it's sci-fi, it's a little bit of fantasy. I think with a show like that, I think a weekly release bodes better than say just like a straightforward sitcom. Uh, or the likes of that. Because let me throw out another show for you. Disney Plus launched their first Marvel series with WandaVision. And out of the gate, not everyone knew what it was about. But, and look, I'm a Marvel fan. Maybe I'm just, preaching to no one here. But the lore of mystery and the ability to use those weeks to build a conversation, but more importantly, to theorize, that allowed WandaVision to grow. And if you drop that all at once, you take that ability away. So maybe it comes down to the genre of show we're talking about here. Maybe it's about, hey, this show, it's a mystery. There are things that we don't want you to figure out right away. So let's not drop everything at once. Let's do a little bit of a slow burn. And then that's a more satisfying experience. Whereas maybe with something like Coven, I mean, we were talking about that Only Murder show. I don't know what that show's about. Is there like a mystery aspect to it? But that was like a weekly release. What? So don't like dive into a plot synopsis or anything. But do you think the weekly release benefited that show for you?
Well, ironically, I did not watch that show when it originally released. It just kind of got by me. I wasn't really watching as much then. It is a really good show. I do highly recommend watching it. Steve Martin, Martin Short, and Selena Gomez. Not much you can get wrong with cast like that. Um, what I will say is this: I know for at least I think people that did try to watch it at the time, it was really good because the show is very much a mystery. I mean, the title kind of tells you that's what it is in a sense. And it was very entertaining to try to piece that together when I did binge it. Um, I think for this topic as a whole, I'm more of a binger. But what I will say is I think that you're right that it can be very nice for shows to have like weekly releases to where it builds up conversation through the week. So the one thing I'll relate to, because I don't know how many people watch animated shows. I've been watching like animated and anime and etc. Like those types of shows, like a decent bit. Um, Probably some of the more mainstream stuff. The one thing I can actually relate to that I think is a blend of both of these was when the Arcane series dropped on Netflix. I don't know how many people watched that, but a lot of people said it was good. It was a solid show. But they dropped it 3 episodes at a time each week. So you were able to get enough content to where you could kind of feel satisfied by watching the few episodes. And then it was enough to where then they left it on a big enough cliffhanger on the last episode to where it's like, all right, now we're going to be hooked in for the next one. So I think if you can kind of marry the two and drop like a few episodes of a season, depending on how long it is, and then do it weekly, I think that's probably your best solution.
I think as long as you give them enough content, like you were saying. I mean, at that point, to me, that kind of release schedule isn't necessarily dropping 3 episodes at a time. That's more like there are 3 episodes in the season, and they all just happen to be 3 hours long. But yeah, no, we had a lot of talk about this. I kind of want to just open the show and get you guys' thoughts on it. But honestly, I feel like this is a conversation we can have with people. And look, Ryan, I know you want to move on to like more sports related topics, but I do want to mention something that happened yesterday from the show in passing. Uh, we were just talking about what LeBron James was saying in regards to his last season is going to be played with Bronny James. Now, and we got into Bronny's recruiting a little bit. He doesn't have any offers. So I just threw out, hey, well, wouldn't it be fun if he came to Virginia Tech? If Mike Young was the first to get on that train, first to offer him, and we got that first foot in the door, and we brought him here. And I just threw out a poll on Twitter, and I said, hey, would you guys want to see Bronny James at Virginia Tech? And the response I got on that poll was like 60 or plus votes. That is the most votes I think I've ever gotten on a poll ever on Twitter. And to me, that tells me that is a good way to interact with our listener base. Doing a little bit more social media, more of that interactive stuff. And polls on Twitter are extremely easy. Anytime I see a poll on Twitter, I always just stop to read it, see if there's something I could, because it's just a quick press of the button. You're not replying, you're not liking, you're not retweeting. It's just a simple press a button, yes or no, one of these options. And it's why I think that what you're watching has also been pretty successful. So I think that might be something we want to incorporate into our show from now on. Maybe we can get it on the mainline 3304 account. Maybe it's just on my own. But that level of interaction where we had a lot of people talking about, hey, yeah, Bronny James to Virginia Tech would be a great idea. I think it was like over 80% said yes. Obviously, the realistic part of that is different, but that's why the campaign starts today. But no, I think that and something like this, that's not even like that sports related, it allows us to widen our listener base, talk to people a little bit more about something that, because we're not robots. We're not just going to talk about sports all the time. And on slow news days like today, there's got to be some other things that we can talk about. So I don't know. I thought that was just a good idea to open the show with. And yeah, I think I might throw a poll out to gauge people's interest on this because, I don't know, we're just trying to grow a show here. We're trying to grow a brand. And however we can get you guys interacting with it, I'm game with that. So yeah, I think it's time to move on now. Definitely 20 minutes. I was not anticipating talking about that for that long. But let's see what we got up here next. All right. Ryan, I think I want to let you take over from here because I think this idea is a little bit of your baby. Just a little bit of Zion Williamson news. I want to say we name dropped Zion, or maybe it was a pre-show yesterday that we were talking about Zion. I don't think it made it to air. But why don't you just give us some context here on what's going on in New Orleans?
Yeah, honestly, it's kind of a mess. Up until yesterday, it had been reported that Zion Williamson has not reached out to CJ McCollum since being traded to the New Orleans Pelicans. And this is very unusual, being that usually when a player like that joins a team like the Pelicans, it's usually everybody's, welcoming them and, wanting to get that chemistry on the same page. And it had been reported that Zion had not done that. And former Pelicans sharpshooter JJ Redick had something to say about it on First Take. And these are just a few excerpts from the show. So JJ said, "This just shows a complete lack of investment in your team and the organization in the city. I get that Zion's hurt and away from the team, but you just traded for one of the best 50 players in the league, a guy that's supposed to be paired with you. Reach out and say hello." He also said, "This is a pattern of behavior with Zion that we are seeing again and again. And look, I was his teammate. I can describe him as a detached teammate. That is an accurate statement. This is basic level of humanity being a teammate. Send a text to a guy when he gets traded to your team. That is just normal behavior. That is bare minimum that you have to do." So I want to get your guys' opinions on kind of what is it with Zion right now? He's obviously not putting a lot of effort into getting back in to playing shape, and he's not putting a lot of effort into the New Orleans Pelicans organization in general. So I want to get your guys' opinions about, where do you see this whole Zion thing going?
Colburn, you're our co-host for the day. Why don't you start us off here?
I don't know. I mean, part of the concern, and I remember this was something that was talked about, and it was divisive when Zion was actually coming out from the draft, because it became a lot more of a race between him and Ja Morant than we originally anticipated. Was due to the fact of kind of his unique build as a basketball player. Because it's almost like he's built like a tank in a sense. Like he can kind of destroy you, and he's just kind of like, he's one of the more unique builds, and with his play style, with what all he could do, that was why he was regarded such a generational talent. But there's the concern that I believe happened at Duke at like in the middle of his freshman year, but then on top of that is something that's kind of lingered throughout his time in New Orleans, is staying healthy because of how he needs to maintain his body. And JJ Redick, I do think, kind of hits the nail on the head there. And obviously he was a teammate of Zion's for a couple of years, or like either one or two. So like he knows that this is an issue for him on the team, and we've seen that this has been an issue for Zion, at least over the past 3-4 years. So I don't know. I can't claim to say that I know where Zion's head's at, because that just wouldn't be true. What I can say and talk about is the fact that Anthony Davis, another one of the big players that New Orleans drafted past decade, did his hardest to compete for the team, try to get him to the playoffs. I believe he got him there once, or if not, they were close but no cigar. And then he said, "Okay, I've got to go. I've done as much as I can. I can't stay. So either trade me or I'll leave as like a free agent." And I almost feel like that's where Zion might be without doing the work to really get regarded for that point. Because when he's played, he's been good, but he hasn't really got the team close to the playoffs himself or anything like that. It's been the foundation of the team without Zion in it currently. Like Brandon Ingram's done so much work, and you've got Devontae Graham now, and you had why am I forgetting Lonzo when he was getting better and better and better at New Orleans. Like they've done a solid enough job as an organization to try to get themselves back in the playoff picture ever since losing AD. And I don't know if Zion's fully committed to that, particularly because he could be in a bad place here with the injuries. I mean, the only other thing that I can really correlate to Zion, and not from what JJ pointed out, was Andrew Luck. And the reason that I can point that out is because Andrew Luck is someone who it became very, very hard for him during his towards the end of his career, which is why he retired, to deal with the fact that he continued to get injured, and his body was just kind of breaking down, and it kind of tore him up. And that's why he wanted to retire, because he was tired of getting injured and he wanted to be healthy for his family. And now he's a family man and doing everything, on that end. And that could be something that's tearing up Zion, because I wouldn't think that I'd want to keep getting injured time and time again. So I don't know. It's a very confusing situation, and I can just hope nothing but the best for the player. But JJ Redick's already pointed out that this could just be a mental issue with Zion, and maybe he just wants to get off the team.
Here's something that I will compare Zion Williamson to. This is a conversation that I've had a lot, a thought that I've had a lot. The media is clearly biased towards smaller markets. We understand this. They only talk about the Lakers. They only talk about the Nets, blah, blah, blah. They only talk about the big stars. They want to see all-star players, all NBA caliber players. They don't want to see Damian Lillard in Portland. They don't want to see Giannis in Milwaukee. They don't want to see Ja Morant in Memphis. The difference between all those guys and Zion so far in their career, I haven't seen Zion with the outward expression that he wants to build something in New Orleans on the same level of like a Ja Morant in Memphis. And Ja Morant, by the way, I mean, it's the easy comparison. He was drafted right after him. I mean, at this point in his career, Ja seems to be on a much better career trajectory than Zion. I mean, Zion, again, really, really good player. If he gets healthy and if he's committed to getting his body right to stay healthy, I think that he can become at least. I think he can be on a similar level as Ja Morant. We know the athletic ability that he has. Would he be feeling the same way had the Knicks won that lottery? And if he was playing in New York right now, I don't know. I know that right now we can pull up a guy like Ben Simmons and say, hey, we know his ability, but maybe his mental state just isn't there. Like maybe it's not good for his mental health, the situation that he's in. Now, whether or not Zion Williamson has given New Orleans a fair chance at all in his career, that's unknown. I really feel like that's unknown. Whereas Ben Simmons, I feel like Ben Simmons gave Philadelphia a chance. It's just that Philadelphia it's a very toxic place to play. You know, with the media and with the fan base, with Philadelphia fans able to turn on you quickly. Let alone, yes, he did make some questionable decisions in his play there. I think it's best for him to get out of that situation. With Zion, I don't know if there's been criticism. The New Orleans media is not some, media known for player slander and being hard on talent. And the fan base, as I'm aware, is not some toxic community. But the level of buy-in from Zion has not been the same for his small market as compared to other superstars who have been in small markets for either most of their career or even just the shortest part of their career as it's getting started. I don't know if there's a commitment from Zion to be there. And at this point, I don't know if there's going to be, because he only reached out to CJ McCollum after this pressure came on from the media, from JJ Redick. It was kind of funny. He basically responded to that by posting team highlights to his Instagram page, basically saying like, oh, fine, you want me to do it? Here, take it. And I don't know, the timing of it seemed just very off to me.
Yeah, Zion's obviously a tremendous player. I mean, I believe he's played a little over 60 games. He's averaging 27 points a game. He's obviously on par with a guy like Ja Morant. But the thing about Ja Morant that really differs from Zion, you touched on a little bit, Dan, is just a passion for the place that he's at. He wants to make Memphis a place that's desirable for free agents. And I think this season is a big step in that direction. You've also got some good role players on that team like Desmond Bane. And it's just a team that's anchored by a guy that wants to be there. And that's what New Orleans could be. Zion is a tremendous player. He's probably once in a generation type player that we'll see. But I foresee my prediction, and it goes back to his college days, and it goes back to some of the pre-draft conversations. He wants to play with RJ Barrett. And it also helps that Cam Reddish is now with the New York Knicks. I mean, I foresee him, I don't know what the timetable is on this, but I foresee him requesting a trade in one of his preferred destinations to be the New York Knicks. I mean, it makes the most sense. Everything's lined up for it. And I think, I don't know if the Knicks had this in mind when they traded for Cam Reddish, but I can see why they might have. I think, GMs know that Zion's not happy in New Orleans. He's obviously not happy. He hasn't outwardly said it like maybe some stars would, but he's not. And I think every sign points to that. And I think he will eventually end up requesting a trade to the New York Knicks. And that'd be something because you're talking about three. I mean, Zion's probably the best out of the three of them. RJ Barrett's been playing a lot better. Cam Reddish has a lot of potential. That team could be really, really exciting. And I don't think Zion, I think this is part of kind of his ploy to get out of New Orleans, is to kind of, not be the great team. And I don't think it's the right way to do it. But New Orleans obviously isn't the most ideal place to start a career. But we've seen what players like Ja Morant can do. He made Memphis into a 3 seed in what? I mean, they made the play-in last year, but they're now a 3 or a 4 seed.
Made the playoffs. Out-dueled Steph Curry at Golden State.
Right.
It was crazy his play last season.
John Morant's just a ton of fun to watch, a ton of fun, and he wants to be there, and that's what makes him fun to watch. I love watching Zion Williamson play, but he doesn't seem to have much desire to get back into playing shape. And I foresee him requesting a trade at some point.
Let me say this, and I think this. You guys call me out on this if you think I'm wrong, but I think this is the perfect way to describe the Zion Williams situation compared to, those other guys I mentioned. Zion Williamson has been at the center of basketball attention basically since high school. All of his flashy dunks that were highlights on Vine, SportsCenter posting about him being the number one recruit, going to a powerhouse like Duke, basically being the number one pick, sharpied in for, 3 straight years? Compare that to Ja Morant, who is a 0-star recruit, goes to Murray State for 2 years. Compare that to Damian Lillard, who goes to Weber State. Compare that to Giannis, who is an international unknown, gets drafted outside the lottery. There is this emotional difference between that. There is the level of humbling that these guys have undertaken that Zion has not been privy to. He hasn't experienced that. He hasn't experienced, not being in the spotlight. And New Orleans is nowhere near the spotlight. Whereas Portland, Milwaukee, Memphis, those are not places that, the NBA, the media cares about. And I don't think guys like Ja Morant, Dame Lillard, Giannis would have it any other way. Damian Lillard is kind of killing his legacy because he is so loyal to Portland. He wants to stay there for his entire career. He is seeing the front office do nothing to help him, and he does not want to run from the grind, as he would say, as NBA Twitter would love to say. And compare that to Zion, who has been there for a couple of years. They've done a decent job at acquiring talent. Like that Anthony Davis trade should have set them up well. Zion's a good player. Brandon Ingram is, in this role, much better. They brought in Lonzo, who just wasn't able. If Lonzo still was playing with Zion, maybe he doesn't go to Chicago, and maybe that duo becomes something. But I don't know. They just don't want. It seems like Zion doesn't want to put in the work because he doesn't know what it's like to be in that situation. Whereas guys like Ja Morant, Damian Lillard, and Giannis, they've been doing that for years. They've been doing that their whole lives and their whole basketball careers. They have always been the guys that have been looked down upon, not thought of as that great, whereas Zion has always had, everything kind of handed to him. He's been in the spotlight his entire career, so he just has a difference there. I don't know if that's a point that is good to make. I kind of wanted to end it on that, but I mean, if you guys have stuff to say on it, go right ahead.
Oh, all I was gonna say was honestly, that's kind of what I was thinking. I'm kind of right there with you with that because I mean that type of thing, and it's not that it's even a negative about Zion, but it's that type of media attention can make or break a person. Particularly at that age that he's at. It's not like Zion got all this attention like just before college, like some of like these prospects do. Like I don't know if I really knew Chet Holmgren before he was announced as like that number one prospect and he went to Gonzaga. And that's just kind of like one example, but I mean, you're absolutely right. Particularly with Ja Morant is that comparison. I mean, Murray State's been a really good like outside Power 5 like team over this past decade, and Jaws really ending up there and developing as it is just a testament to that incredible system out there. But as you said, like Ja Morant is used to making where he's at be the center of attention and be the star. Murray State was incredible for him and with him. And then he went to Memphis and he's doing the exact same thing. And Memphis is definitely going to be a very popular place to be starting to look at. This offseason, possibly the next one, because like Ja's still going to be there through his rookie deal. So why wouldn't we want to go there and join up with him? So yeah, I think like that and your comparisons with Giannis and Damian are spot on. And I think it's one of those things that's it's a mental border that I think Zion might have to go through. It's one of those things I didn't want to be too presumptuous on, but it's something I thought of. So that's why I'm right there with you.
All right, we have a Virginia Tech men's basketball game tonight that we have to preview. We're going to take a quick break, and on the other side of it, Brian Kearney is going to give us all the details. Stick with us. You're listening to 3304 Daily.
It's opening day from Blacksburg, Virginia, here at English Field, as the Virginia Tech Hokies take on the UNC Asheville Bulldogs. Here's the first pitch from Douglas. DeMartini gets a hold of this one to center field. Chandler chasing it, and it's gone! DeMartini on the first pitch he sees in his college career parks it and break out the sledgehammer here at English Field. 1-0 count. Malinowski gets a hold of this one out to left field. It's going to find a gap and it's gone. Eduardo Malinowski over the left field wall. And once again, break out the sledgehammer here at English Field. Only tallied 3 strikeouts and has given up 2 home runs as Cade Hunter gets a hold of this one to right field and it's gone. Make that 3 home runs. As Cade Hunter will round the bases. And it's hammer time in Blacksburg. So Little will come set. Here's the pitch. Schobel gets a hold of this one to left field. And it's gone. Tanner Schobel with his first home run of the 2022 season. And the Hokies add another one.
And that is another one driven down to deep center, and that is gone. The first pitch he sees, and he has another home run on the day. And once again, for about the 5th, excuse me, it is hammer time in Blacksburg. Virginia Tech up 10. Hunter will deliver one to left field. Fielder going back, and it is off the wall. 1 run scores. And it looks like a second one will score. Hardigan coming across the plate. A 2 RBI double for Cade Hunter. The good gets better. Now, as a 1-2 count over Bristow, he'll deliver. Bristow will shoot it right to second base, and that will be the final out of today's game. The Hokies close it out. A 17-3 victory over the UNC Asheville Bulldogs. Comfortable weather for baseball here in Blacksburg, Virginia. It is the Virginia Tech Hokies hosting the UNC Asheville Bulldogs. Pitchers count here, Okuda to deliver. A swing and a miss once more. That's 2 consecutive strikeouts to get the game going for the Hokies. To wind up the pitch. Hit right to shortstop, and it will be a base hit as it leaks into left field. Cam Johnson, the first base hit of the day. Okuda now gets the sign. He'll deliver. And that's a swing and a miss, the 3rd strikeout of Okuda's day, and he gets out of the slight jam. Edwards delivers. A swing and a miss at a ball low and away. And Biddison is fans to begin his day. Slowing down a little bit, but he'll deliver here. And that one is on the outer edge. Strike 3 called. Katrine is down. Make it a 4th strikeout for Okuda already. The 0-1. Swung right to third, and that is an excellent pickup from DeMartini as he slings it to first just in time. What an amazing play out there in the field by the third baseman, DeMartini.
Lined up the middle and straight to the center fielder. He'll make the play. Wade Chandler's had his leather tested all night, but that'll close out a scoreless frame for the Hokies here in the bottom of the 5th, the 2-2. Called. Strike 3 in the outside corner rings him up to open up the inning. So Vierved with the velo, and on a 2-2 count gets the fastball for the first K of the night. 0-1-2 down. That one lined well. Deep right field, going back near the track, the wall. It's gone. DeMartini with a 3-run shot. And the Hokies extend their lead more so here in the bottom of the 6th. It's hammer time in Blacksburg. Biddison hit .235 last season as he pops one high up in the air to left field, going back near the track, the wall, and it's gone. Just as I take my eyes off the stat sheet, Nick Biddison sends one deep, a solo shot, and it's hammer time once more here in Blacksburg. There's a line shot to center field, going back near the track, the wall. It's off the base of the wall. 2 runs will score, Hurley rounding second, and he'll dig in with a 2 RBI double. 2-1-2 down. The Hokies trying to finish. That one grounded to the right side. Holisa behind it. He'll touch the bag, and the Hokies win 8-1. A little bit of struggle in the final inning, but sure enough, they pull through. The Hokies advance to 2-0. A good start for Virginia Tech.
Okay, 3304 Daily. Glad that we were able to get those baseball highlights in. I've been meaning to do that all week from past weekend, so glad to be able to get those in there. All right, we have a men's basketball game to preview tonight. Brian Kearney is going to help take the reins on that. Tech at Georgia Tech tonight. Hey, they got to win, right? So, Brian, what's the lowdown?
Yeah, just like you said, they definitely need a win. Coming off that loss from UNC. This is the second time that Tech's played Georgia Tech. The spread right now is -6 in favor of VT, and then the over/under is 132.5. Georgia Tech definitely struggled shooting the last time out. They've struggled all season, so the Hokies definitely need a win on this one. Just wanted to get your guys' thoughts on how you think tonight's going to go. We saw Georgia Tech really struggle shooting down the stretch at the end of that one. They shot 35%, which obviously not gonna get much done when you do that. The Hokies were not shooting a whole lot better, around 50%, but enough to get it done. So overall, what are you guys thinking? You think that -6 going to be do you think the Hokies are going to cover that or no?
Well, I mean, I'm looking at it right now, and already it's up to 6.5. Now, a friend did tell me earlier today, and he's one of my friends up in Michigan State, so of course he's teasing me, that people love Georgia Tech tonight on the money line. And I'm going to find out exactly how much people love them tonight. But no, I think we're going to see, honestly, a similar game plan. I think that, now, last time, I don't remember which one it was. One of their top 2 scorers, basically one of their only 2 scorers, DeVoe, yeah, he went off from 30. I was thinking about their other one, who was in foul trouble the whole night, Usher. Usher went 3 of 12. He had 5 fouls. He barely played the first half. He didn't really play a whole lot. Whenever he shot, he didn't make it. So it was really DeVoe and no one else. If Usher gets in, then I get a little bit worried about their production. But, I mean, just looking at it from this perspective, I'm going to see a very similar game plan. I'm going to see them in that zone, Georgia Tech, of course, them playing that zone defense. It's not the best. I think that they do that Tech does what they did in their win. I think they put Mutz in the middle of that floor, let him facilitate. It's how they beat Syracuse. They wanted to see him facilitate a little bit more, and they can win games when he is leading them in assists. The problem becomes when they lose games because he's doing a little bit of improvisation and he's turning the ball over. We've seen him lose the handle a lot of times, and that's really led to some drives being ended sooner than they should have. It's allowed the other team to get in it a little bit if they score on the other end. But I think we're going to see a similar game plan, and I think we're going to see a return to the median in terms of their shooting. They obviously shot horrible against UNC. They're not going to shoot like 50% from the field. I expect like a high 30s performance shooting from 3 from the team tonight. Maybe not even 52% like they shot last time, but if you're around that 50 mark and you just shoot better from 3 against that zone, I think Aluma dominates down low again. Stormer had a big game last time out. I would expect him to kind of, again, return back to normal, return around that 10-point mark. And then Couture and Aline, they just both hit some more 3s than they usually have been. I think you see a good win on the road, probably double digits, just covering that number at least. Again, if Usher doesn't get in foul trouble again and they're able to do what they do on offense, it can be a little bit troublesome. But look, this Virginia Tech team should be head and shoulders above this Georgia Tech team. That's not saying that Georgia Tech is one of the worst teams in America. They're just not. They're below average, and we know that Tech is above average to well above average when they're playing their best. It's just that they had that massive slump that dug them in such a deep hole in the second month of the season. I think tonight we just see a bounce back. They should know that they have to win this game. If that coaching staff and those players don't understand that they have to win this game and they have to go 4-0, the rest of the way in this regular season, then I don't know what to tell you. But I think they do. I think they understand what's at stake here. They are on the fringe of the fringe. They're not completely out of it, but they lose one of these games, they should understand, hey, it's ACC tournament or bust. So they know they have to win tonight. So I think that they take tonight seriously. I think they walk out of there with a nice dub. I think Aluma dominates again. I think he just is really, really good. And again, if Mutz can contain the turnovers, this team is really good at beating those zones with him in the middle of the floor, passing either back outside or down to Aluma for an easy layup. So I think we see kind of just a return to median, and a B- game from Virginia Tech wins this game tonight.
Yeah, I'm not at all concerned, really. I don't really understand maybe the hype around Georgia Tech. I mean, maybe sometimes favorable odds, like really good odds, have you think, okay, maybe this could be a game, and maybe the odds are heavily in Tech's favor, and that might be part of why people love putting a little bit of money on Georgia Tech. They're not a good team. They've had a couple really bad losses. Losing by 15 to NC State, who I think they are both tied at the bottom of the ACC. I'm going to double check that right now. Yeah, 4-12, both NC State, Georgia Tech, and Clemson are in a 3-way tie at the bottom there. yeah, I mean, other than Michael DeVoe, Jordan Usher's solid. He's a little all over the place, as we saw in the game a couple weeks ago. But Michael DeVoe, I think that's the main guy you got to worry about. I mean, he was a crooked number on the stat board. Nobody had double digits other than DeVoe. DeVoe had 30, and the second highest score was Devin Smith with 9. So there's not too much to worry about in terms of scoring on this roster. Now, Michael DeVoe is a tremendous, tremendous basketball player, and I think he's kind of a guy that he's a senior, and I think we talked about this when they came to Tech last time. This is a guy maybe if he has a year left to eligibility, he might consider using that somewhere else. He's one of the best players statistics wise in the ACC, and it just doesn't show on the record for Georgia Tech. So if they can stop Michael DeVoe and hold him to because that game did get a little shaky near the end there, and Tech was able to pull away. If they're able to keep Michael DeVoe, even at 20 points, I think this is a very comfortable win for Virginia Tech, and it's one that they need. This team's going to start playing with a I don't want to say desperate type of energy. They're just they know what they have to do, and that's essentially win out and get a couple wins in the ACC tournament to have a chance to make the NCAA tournament. So I think that's going to be the game plan, and they know what they have to do. They're going to do exactly what they did last time, and come out with a win.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how stressed I am about this game, as Georgia Tech is one of the lesser teams in the ACC conference, particularly this season. Part of my concern for this is we talked about it with UNC, and it's something that we talked about on Monday, which actually I even looked. And when I talked about it on the podcast, it was actually something that's even worse. Over the past 3 games, this Virginia Tech team has shot under 30% from the 3-point range. And that is, I think, the biggest concern for tonight. If anything, that's the scenario that I'm worried about, because I feel like this team has been able to do enough to where they should still be able to easily beat a team like Georgia Tech, even though it's on the road. Sure, road games can be harder. And honestly, that's probably a good part of the reason why we aren't why it could possibly be as close as what it is with that 6.5 spread, because I mean, it is harder to win away on the road, and some of those, like a lot of the losses that we have this year, are on the road. I mean, we were pretty decent at Castle. We were 10-3, I believe, going into the UNC game. Now we're 10-4. But no, I think that really the thing to watch for Tech fans tonight is less about the fact of the win, but more about the fact of, can this team not only get the 3-point shot back, but if they can play with the fire that they had against a team like UVA and what they had during that win streak, because I think there's a little bit more passion that goes into that, like big in-state rivalry game, and I think that happens for a lot of teams. I mean, just look at last night when Kansas put up 100 plus points against Kansas State, and they also did that against old-time rivals in Missouri this season. It's just those kind of like in-state rivalries and like really, really hardcore rivalries can really hype up players. And if you can play with an energy relatively similar to that, and really, and I mean, Ryan, you phrase it like this, but I think it fully should be what they are thinking of, is that desperation energy. It's your back's against the wall and you need to fight for your life to get yourself into the position that you deserve to be in, or at least that you think that you deserve to be in. And for Virginia Tech, in speaking that way, that is the NCAA tournament. So that's what you're looking for tonight. Not just a win, but a dominant win away from home to build on to play against Miami in a few days' time.
Yeah, Brian, I mean, what are your thoughts on today's game? You're the one that gave us a little bit of an intro. Do you have any something that would interest you in tonight's matchup, something to watch?
Yeah, I mean, I think it comes down to their shooting for the most part. I mean, looking at Aluma or Mutz or Couture, obviously they kind of have to step up here. This one, as we've already all talked about, probably if we want to see them shoot better beyond the 3. But going against Georgia Tech, you definitely need to show that you can beat them and beat them handily. This shouldn't be a game that they should struggle to win, which, while if you look at the score from the last game, it doesn't look like it was terribly close. I think that had more to do with Georgia Tech at the end than us. I think if they can shoot well beyond the 3, then I think we'll start to see more of what we want them to see. And when you look ahead, their next 3 games are all against lower opponents, except for Miami. So you kind of want to accelerate through this game as we've already talked about, pushing towards the end. So if they can shoot well beyond the three and not let Georgia Tech kind of hang around, because as we've seen, they kind of can struggle down the road. So I think if Georgia Tech hangs around, they might be in trouble. But I think, as I've already said, just shoot well beyond the three, and I think overall this game should be fine for them.
All right, thank you, Brian. Let me just ask you real quick. You mentioned some numbers at the top. You mentioned the over/under. What was that number again?
It is now 131.5. It was 132.
All right, last time that went over. So again, I think if that number goes over, I think Tech walks away with this one easily, because I don't think Georgia Tech can outscore Virginia Tech. If VT goes in and puts up the points, they're winning. Like, I think that's just how tonight's going to go. All right, last 10 minutes or so here. So let's move on to what you're watching. Hey, man, I would say we're 2 for 2. I don't think last night was quite as good as night number 1, but we still gave you some good ones. I gave you Arkansas versus Florida. That one came down to the wire a little bit. The final score, a little out of hand. But there were some late game dramatics, I would say. Arkansas, I forget the player, goes down to flush a dunk. They're playing the foul game, but I think this is like a 5-point game at this moment, or 7. And guy dunks it and then just smacks the backboard on his way down. Gets a technical, so Florida gets a free throw and the ball back. Could have made it a little bit more interesting, a little bit closer. Would have been funny if that was a complete collapse from that. But no, it was a good rivalry game. Arkansas gets tested on the road, but Florida not able to pull off another upset. Ryan gave you probably the game of the night last night. Villanova, UConn. UConn's coach gets kicked out early in the game because he's hyping up the crowd because I'm guessing Big East refs are terrible or something. Ryan, what did you see last night that you liked out of that game?
It just radiated March energy. It was an awesome game. A lot of back and forth. I think Villanova is a better team, but I think UConn, I mean, they just fought till the end. RJ Cole with the game winner down low, really tough finish at the rim. And it was a really interesting sequence of events at the end of that game because Villanova had a 4-point lead. It was kind of like a trapped and foul situation for UConn. I believe there's 25-30 seconds on the clock, and they got a jump ball, and the ball went back to UConn. And actually, this was after UConn had hit a 3, so it was a 1-point game. And Colin Gillespie was assuming he was going to go to the line because he thought he got fouled, and it could have gone either way. It was jump ball, arm contact a little bit here and there, but UConn got the ball back with 17 seconds left and got to the rim, made the layup with 5 seconds left. And Villanova's game winner did not go. And it was just a tremendous game. It's a matchup that, a lot of people probably hoping to see again. 2 really tough teams. Villanova's a tough out. They're going to be one of my favorites to win the whole thing. Fundamentally sound basketball team. Compare them to the San Antonio Spurs. That's kind of the team that I compare them to. But yeah, really, really solid game. And it was a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, those Big East matchups are always fun. All right. Last night, we kind of had 2 people going with it. Colbjorn, you gave us this game on Monday. Wyatt Krieger backed you up yesterday. A little bit of Kansas State versus Kansas action. I hope you had the over on that one because, my God, a lot of points scored there. What did you see out of that? And let me ask you this because I'm thinking that we're getting closer to March Madness. Let me ask you a little bit about the Jayhawks. Don't talk about it too much because, we got a lot of time left until Selection Sunday. But what did you see out of that game? Why was it exciting? And then also, just a quick note on this Kansas team. This is a Kansas team that has made one Final Four since 2012, and they haven't gotten out of the round of 32. They haven't gotten to the second weekend in the past tournaments. Is there something different about this team?
Yeah, I don't know how much I want to talk about the most recent March Madness history. All I can say about that is we were robbed of 2020 Kansas national champions. But I digress. Specifically out of last night, it was just a full-on team effort, and what's really been showing for this Kansas team over like the past few games, like over the past month or so, is really been like some of that bench depth because originally it was something when you look at the Jayhawks team as a whole, the Remy Martin was hyped up as like the guy, and it was the best transfer, and he's going to be incredible. But the unfortunate news is that Remy Martin has been really dealing with a lingering knee issue throughout this whole year. So we've been looking for other guys on our bench to step up, and that's really what happened last night as well. Ochai had another incredible game. It's Ochai Agbaji. He's been incredible throughout this year. But yeah, Jalen Coleman-Lance and Yesufu, and I think Joseph Yesufu, who both put up 9 points equally. So they put up 18 combined. And then you have Mitch Lightfoot, who's been all reliable for this team, and he put up 13. So just some really good points off the bench, and that's exactly what a Kansas team is going to be looking for, not only now, but come March Madness, because that's been a lot of the issue for most recent Kansas teams is really having some reliable scorers off the bench. And then honestly, even some of the bigger issues is that having that reliable scorer from the guard position. And that's what Ochai has been. And if you're wanting me to point out something in particular about this Kansas team that is going to be different for this tournament, is that like that 2020 team with Devon Dotson, Ochai Agbaji is an incredibly confident guard. And we don't have that too often, particularly with this balance of a team. Like you've had it with Devontae Graham and Frank Mason and whatnot, but Ochai has been putting up some of the best performances I've seen from a Kansas guard in my lifetime. He's one of the best players that has really kind of been here, and I think he's been consistent in doing so. He doesn't have like one night and then he just falls off for a while. And Jalen Wilson's starting to get up there too. So with all the momentum that's starting to happen, this is a very special Kansas Jayhawk team that can rely on 3 of their starters to do well and rely on some good bench pieces to complement it.
All right, and I'll wrap it up. Julian Ferdman last night gave you Michigan State versus Iowa. I'll wrap it up for you. I told you yesterday, Michigan State basketball playing on a Tuesday night never ends well, and it didn't last night. Keegan Murray is that dude in the most recent NBA mock draft from ESPN. He is number 9 overall, and man, I'm looking at it. That 2018 class from Tom Izzo, Marcus Bingham, Foster Loyer, Gabe Brown, Aaron Henry, Thomas Kithier, might go down as his worst recruiting class of all time. It just did not produce what it wanted to. So is life as a Michigan State fan. But what do we have on the slate for tonight? So I'm going to throw out a hockey. I'm going to throw out some hockey. We have not been able to do that so far because they've all been on ESPN. But we've got some hockey on TNT tonight. So I'm going to throw out the 7:30 matchup. I've got the Edmonton Oilers at Tampa Bay. Looked at the standings. Edmonton is fighting for that last wild card spot, so it could be a big win for them. But obviously, the Lightning, one of the best teams in hockey once again. So could see some fireworks tonight. Ryan, over to you.
Yeah, I like TCU in Texas. I think it's going to be a really fun game. 2 teams that are really up and down. Texas on paper is probably one of the most talented teams in the country. You've got a ton of transfers on that team. Marcus Carr, one of the most significant ones. And they're 8-6 in conference, 19-8 overall. And that just shows you how good the Big 12 is because they're still ranked 20th, even being just 8-6 in conference. TCU is a bubble team, 6-7 in conference. This could be a huge win for them. It's a rematch. TCU fell early in the season, but this is a good TCU team, and it should be a really fun matchup. And it'll be, TCU wins this game. This will be one step in making the tournament for them.
Yeah, the whole team we talked about with Colbjorn on Monday. Colbjorn, who do you have tonight and what you're watching?
Yeah, for me, it's going to be less of a night thing and more of an afternoon thing here, as in 30 minutes after our radio show here, it's going to be Champions League soccer. I haven't been able to talk about too much soccer recently, so I'm a little bit on my soccer itch. And you have Manchester United versus Atletico Madrid, 2 of the biggest teams in the world. Obviously, so many storylines for Manchester United, and it's going to be very interesting to see if this just kind of, struggling club can actually go out and pull out a decent performance, I believe, in Spain this afternoon.
All right, round us out. Brian Tierney, what are you watching tonight?
Yeah, so I was gonna throw out that TCU game as well, but since I'm not on here for the rest of the week, I wanted to throw out a game on Saturday, which is college baseball. It's number 2 Arkansas versus number 6 Stanford, and it's just going to be a 1 game. Typically, you have those weekend games be multiple games, but this is it's part of a tournament, so it's going to be an exciting one game off. Both of them are dealing with some injuries, so rookies are going to have to stand up. So you never really know what's going to happen, and I think it'll be a fun top 10 matchup for sure.
All right, there you have it from us here on a Wednesday. Also, USFL draft note, please pray for me. I have to root for a team that has Shea Patterson and Paxton Lynch at quarterback. Please, God, why is being a sports fan such pain? All right, we will see you guys back tomorrow on a Thursday. Thank you for listening. Have a great day. Take care.